What is up, my imagination connoisseurs? It is I, the notorious RMB, coming at you here on Super Bowl Sunday. You know, I wasn't going to go live today. I was like, what should I discuss on this Super Bowl Sunday? Commercials? I didn't want to discuss commercials. That wasn't what I was interested in. But what people are always asking me about my favorite things, like, you know, I've been doing this series on movies. There's Gilbert, by the way. He's been barking up a storm today in this rainy Southern California afternoon. But people always want me to talk about my favorite things. Like, what are my favorite things? Well, one of my favorite things that I have loved literally my whole life is a certain science fiction television series that I saw at a very young age. And it was a science fiction series that was created. It was created between 1969 and 1971, and it was created by Gerry Anderson, the great Gerry Anderson. I think Gerry Anderson is one of the most today unsung creative forces in science fiction television. He's not given the I think the credibility he deserves, even though his creations are still to this day. There is new material being derived from Gary Anderson's, pardon me, Gary or Jerry. Gerry Anderson's, I'm saying Gary. It's Gerry Anderson. Was I saying Jerry? It's Gerry Anderson. Gerry Anderson's uh, programs. And he is, I think, the same way that Gene Roddenberry is thought of as the father of Star Trek, and he, of course, is. Gerry Anderson has been responsible for creating an even longer legacy than Star Trek. And he began creating children's shows in the late 50s. And he pioneered what was later called super marionation. And his first notable shows, there were two. One was called Supercar, and the other one was called Fireball XL5. Now, these were shows that were created in the UK, and they were clearly uh, designed to be a children's television, but they were surprisingly sophisticated for a children's television show. Both of them were, and what was so great about them. And by the way, we didn't get a lot of Supercar or Fireball XL5 here in the States, but what was so great about these shows, especially for kids, is they were all, because they were made with super marionettes, or it was later called super marionettes. They were, you know, puppets, but these were huge puppets. It wasn't like Kukla Fran or Ollie. It wasn't like the Land of Make Believe with Mr. Rogers. I mean, these were huge puppets that would inhabit miniature sets, but they were gigantic miniature sets, and they were intercut with special effects sequences where you had models and really elaborate miniature effects that were later done by people like Derek Meddings, who went on to become one of the great special effects, and Brian Johnson, one of the great special effects impresarios, working on the Bond films, working on the Star Wars movies. But so Gerry Anderson from the late 50s and into the 60s created a number of these science fiction super marionette shows: Supercar, Fireball XL5, Stingray, which is referenced in the opening of Aquaman. We see a clip from the opening of Stingray and the Stingray show. And then, of course, his most famous, arguably his most famous, I mean, his most famous super marionette series was the Thunderbirds. And then after the Thunderbirds, he created Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. He created Joe 90. He went on, and later, one of his later creations was the Terrahawks. And he produced a pretty great science fiction movie in the late 60s that was called Doppelganger, or AKA, as we saw in the States, Journey to the Far Side of the Sun, because we here in the United States can't be bothered to figure out what doppelganger meant. I believe doppelganger is a German word that basically means double or mirror image, a double of a person. So anyway, so Gerry Anderson was somebody that even as a kid in the States, I didn't know much about. Like, I would see pictures from shows in magazines like Starlog, but there was really no way when I was a child, the Thunderbirds was not airing in the States. It was something that I didn't get to see. I didn't know Captain Scarlet. I didn't know. The only way I knew about these shows were through the toys that were made by a company called Dinky Toys out of the UK. And they were making these beautiful die-cast metal representations of the Thunderbirds, like they had made a Thunderbird 2, for instance. And the Thunderbird 2 it had spring-loaded legs that popped out. It had a cargo section that you could slide out with your fingers, and there was Thunderbird 4 that was inside Thunderbird 2. I didn't even know what Thunderbird 4 did when I got the toy. I got the toy because I would buy Dinky Toys, and I got into Dinky Toys because of what I'm going to what the focus of this talk is about. But so Gerry Anderson was one of the great science fiction television show creators. And what was really interesting, if you watch Gerry Anderson shows like the Thunderbirds, which, by the way, has been ongoing, you can see a new Thunderbird show that was pretty much masterminded by Weta, Peter Jackson's Weta Digital, down in New Zealand. It's run, I think it's up to its 3rd season or 4th season now. So the Thunderbirds, and they use CG instead of super marionettes for their characters. There's also a CG version of Captain Scarlet, a new version of Captain Scarlet. I'm sure it's only a matter of time before we get Joe 90, and with Stingray being referenced in Aquaman, who knows when we might see a Stingray reboot, as it were. But that brings me to one of my favorite science fiction shows of all time, bar none, and that I should probably set the stage and explain when it was I saw this show. I want to say it was around the time I was 5 or 6 or 7. And I remember, here's where I saw the show. It was on Sunday nights at 7 o'clock. And I want to say it was on PBS. It was on public broadcasting. I want to say, because that's when I first saw The Prisoner, which was brought to you by ITC Entertainment, the same company, I believe, that brought us The Muppet Show. But they had their logo, and the logo had this music that would go dun 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 dun. So that was, I have this Pavlovian response to that. I like, really? I gotta watch that. Anything with that the spinning logo, I had to watch. So it was after dinner. I'd go to my grandparents every Sunday. We'd either go to the Chinese restaurant, the Jade House, that was on Mercer Island, or we'd go to my grandparents' house. And we went to my grandparents' house. This is where I discovered this show, Gerry Anderson's first live-action television series, which is, of course, I am speaking about UFO. And UFO, this is the hideously expensive Japanese Blu-ray box set, because this show has yet to be officially released on Blu-ray in this country. It was like $400 when it first came out, but it was UFO. I had to have it. There is a different set, a Blu-ray set that came out in the UK. Here it is, UFO. It's amazing. It comes with all 26 episodes of the show, and it comes with this very beefy book on the series itself. This book is worth it alone. Again, the Japanese set is not region. It's region free because it's not region free, but it's region A, so it can play in the United States. For the British set, you do in fact need a multi-region disc player. So I would see this show when I was a child, and it was, first of all, it was the scariest TV show I'd ever seen up to that point. Ongoing, I think I saw before Kolchak the Night Stalker, which is pretty scary. So what is UFO? This was Gerry Anderson's first live action series, and if you haven't seen, a lot of you have. It's the series with the girls with purple hair, but a lot of people have not. I'm always surprised by how many people have never heard of UFO. So here is the premise of UFO. It begins, and it's also one of the first shows that has a loose serialized continuity to it. And it only ran 26 episodes because it was hideously. It ran 26 episodes, and it's considered a single season show, but it really wasn't. There's really 2 parts to the first season. There was definitely a demarcation point, and you can see that in terms of the wow, everyone's saying that the sound is low again. Uh-oh. Well, that is sad for me. I don't know why the sound is low. I just have to keep going. I have to keep going for this. But is it really that low? Well, I'll try. Now that I'm in the middle of this conversation, I don't know why. I don't know why this keeps happening on my sound, but I'll try and fix it. Let's see. I can try that. Yeah, see, it's not changing. I'll do that, do that, do that. Maybe it went better. Did it go better? I don't know. I can't tell. Anyway, I don't know why with the sound, but anyway, so UFO. The first, I'm just going to keep going. The first live action show from Gerry Anderson, and here's the premise of the show. It begins in 1970, and there is a multinational. The British government and the United States government have now received irrefutable proof that aliens exist, that the Earth is being visited by extraterrestrials. And there was never any actual proof this had happened until a pilot, Peter Carlin, and his sister and a friend were out in the woods. They were, having afternoon, lovely time in the woods, and they spot a landed UFO, flying saucer, and they are attacked by an alien. And one of their friend, Peter Carlin's friend, is viciously gunned down and killed, and his sister is kidnapped, never to be seen, and disappears. And Peter Carlin's film is recovered, and he was filming. He had a Super 8 camera, and he was filming this UFO. So you could actually, there was evidence now that UFOs existed, and which was of course of great concern to the governments of the world. So, and throughout the course of the show, you get to see the evolution. But the first episode shows this. It opens with this sequence, and then it shows that Ed Straker, who is he's an American Air Force officer, I believe, and he meets with the British, and they decide to form an organization called SHADO, SHADO, and that stands for Supreme Headquarters Alien Defense Organization. So SHADO, and then the series jumps to 1980, where it takes place. It takes place in 1980. And SHADO is a multinational force. All of the governments of the world come together, and they contribute for money and materials and manpower to a super secret organization. So the entire planet is involved. And what SHADO does is it builds the defense force, obviously, to combat this extraterrestrial threat. Now, what's crazy about this show is SHADO headquarters is underneath a movie studio. So, and in the show, the main character played by Ed Bishop, his name is Colonel Ed Straker, and he moonlights. He is the head of SHADO, but he's also the head of a movie studio, Harlington Straker Studios. So they actually filmed the show at a movie studio, and in a genius move, they had SHADO headquarters. SHADO headquarters is underneath this movie studio, which is kind of wacky. But again, that's good producing. That's taking what you have and making it work for you. So what ends up happening is that SHADO creates a number of, and as a kid, this is what I loved about it, they have a number of ways to combat this alien threat. They have a moon base. They have a secret moon base. And on this moon base, they have secreted within craters, they have these ships, these fighters called Interceptors. And the Interceptors come out of the craters, and when the UFOs come, the Interceptors are launched. That's their first line of defense, to defeat the aliens, to take out the UFOs before they get to Earth. But if they don't get to Earth, SHADO has a number of other devices to combat this alien threat. They have their first line of defense is the Skydiver submarines. They have a fleet of submarines that patrol the world's oceans, and each submarine has a jet fighter on the front of it called the Skydiver, or Sky One. Skydivers are the name of the submarines, and Sky One or Sky Two or Three or Four, and they're sub-launched fighters that go into Earth's atmosphere to take out the UFOs. And if the UFOs make it to Earth, if they somehow land, SHADO has these carriers, these planes that carry what they call mobiles, which are basically tanks, heavily armored tanks that have rockets and communications devices on them to communicate with SHADO. And they are fighting this pretty much losing battle against these extraterrestrials who are coming to Earth for. It's pretty horrible why they are coming to Earth. They are a dying race, and they are kidnapping human beings, and they are taking human organs and putting them into. They're either using all human bodies. You never, the aliens in UFO are never seen. We never see the aliens. All we see are humanoid agents of these aliens, and it's not kind of like the Mysterons in the earlier Supermarionation Gerry Anderson show, Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. You just hear we are the voice of the Mysterons. You never see the Mysterons. You just hear their voice and see their ships, pretty much. But the aliens in UFO remain elusive, and we see their human agents. And it is discovered that the human beings are they're altered, and they're using human organs to replenish their pilots. The aliens that we meet are humanoid. And again, it's not clear whether those are actual aliens from the home planet or these are human agents that are being used to further the aliens' goals on Earth. But they are a dying race, and they're using human parts. So they're harvesting organs from human beings. So it's pretty gross. I mean, it's pretty gross. So the alien threat is real. It is dire. They are coming here, and Shadow is left to combat this alien threat. Now, one of the things for me as a kid, one of the reasons I love this show was, of course, the hardware, which was a staple of all of Gerry Anderson's previous shows, all the way beginning with Supercar and Fireball XL5. First of all, the Supercar was very cool. Fireball XL5, which was a spaceship, was awesome. But Stingray was an awesome submarine. Of course, the Thunderbirds, you have 5 different ships, Thunderbirds 1 through 5. Thunderbird 5 is a space station. Thunderbird 1 is a cool airship. Thunderbird 2 is a bigger airship, like a Sikorsky Sky Crane, but a jet. Thunderbird 3 is a rocket ship that can go into orbit. Thunderbird 4, I found out, even though I'd known it from my Dinky Toy, Thunderbird 4 is a submarine. And so a big staple of Gerry Anderson shows are the hardware. And that, for a kid, that was what was for me as a kid who loved science fiction and spaceships and model kits and all that. The show was tailor-made for me because it was so cool and it had such great hardware. It was an amazing show to watch. If you watch there are 2 Thunderbirds feature films. There's Thunderbirds Are Go and Thunderbirds 6. And if you ever watch Thunderbirds Are Go, most of the beginning, hello Gilbert, the beginning seems a little boring now, but the entire first 10 minutes of Thunderbirds Are Go is the 0X Martian probe ship being assembled on the runway at an airport. It's just, it is model pornography. You just watch this ship being put together before it's launched. And there's a lot of that in UFO. So there's a lot of fetishistic attachment to Shadow's hardware. The Interceptors, if you were a kid, the Interceptors were so cool. The mobiles were cool. Skydiver and Sky One were so cool. And then they would have their own airline, Shad Air. Everything was Shadow something. So they had the Shad Air, which had supersonic planes. I mean, it was the coolest thing. And then the UFOs were the coolest things of all. They were the coolest UFOs that have ever been put on screen were the UFOs in UFO. They had a very distinctive noise that they would make, and they would spin around, and it was amazing. But what was so great, what I loved about this show as a kid, the thing that caught my imagination was, first of all, it's very, very serious. These people are serious people. The alien threat is very serious, and it's fucking scary. It's a scary, scary show. As a matter of fact, UFO was so scary to me as a kid that I could not listen to the end credit music. The end credit music would play, and the camera pulls away from the Earth, and it pulls back, and then the moon is revealed in the end credits. That end credit music by the great Barry Gray, who worked on most of Gerry Anderson shows. Barry Gray, he did the incredible first season theme. By the way, Gerry Anderson, after UFO was so expensive to make, they retooled it and they turned it into Space 1999. So fans of these things think that there is a lineage, because Space 1999 takes place obviously 19 years after UFO. So presumably the alien threat went away. But the show is so dour and so serious and so scary, and so it has one of the most. There's an episode of UFO called "The Question of Priorities," which has probably, in my mind, one of the single biggest downer endings. Even when I was a kid, my jaw I didn't understand. I think the first time I ever experienced death in any form, I mean, was watching a UFO episode, A Question of Priorities. It was one of the I couldn't believe it. I'm not gonna tell you what happens in this show, but there's a couple of great flashback episodes. If you watch the episodes, the pilot episode, well, the first episode is called Identified. Now UFO, there's not really any order to UFO. I mean, it's and how the cast comes and goes. There's a character. There's a Wanda Ventum, who is a British actress, plays Colonel Virginia Lake in UFO. She's Benedict Cumberbatch's mother. There's a weird piece of trivia for you. Benedict Cumberbatch's mother, Wanda Ventum, who plays her. She plays Colonel Virginia Lake, and she becomes she's kind of a secondary character, but becomes a main character in the back nine because they lost another one of their main cast members. But what was a really interesting staple about UFO was, you'll watch the first episode, especially you ladies out there. There's a lot of cheesecake in it. I mean, there's some lascivious camera shots with women in episode one. However, the show is very progressive for its time because it had a multi-ethnic, international cast. There were people from all over the world represented by the cast, and women. Colonel Virginia Lake, represented by her, was a high-ranking member of Shadow. So you had many female cast members and many male cast members, and there was all kinds of ethnicities represented in UFO. So even though the first episode, if you watch it, it's like, what teenage boys made this episode? But if you get beyond that, the show is rather progressive for its time, especially in terms of gender and race inclusion on the show. So that was something that UFO had going for it, which was very cool. But anyway, but the show is, as I said, dour. But if you watch Identified, the pilot, and you watch, my advice would be to watch, you have to watch the first two episodes, but then watch an episode called Confetti Check A-OK, which is about the history of Shadow. It's like a flashback episode that deals with the entire history of Shadow. And then watch A Question of Priorities. Again, one of the most devastating hours of television, of science fiction television, certainly, that I call it, if you guys are ER fans, one of the greatest hours of television ever was one of the first season episodes of ER called Love's Labor Lost, and it was directed by Mimi Leader. A Question of Priorities is the Love's Labor Lost of UFO, if that makes any sense to anybody. It's just how my mind works. But so anyway, UFO moves on, and it deals with Shadow's attempts to combat this extraterrestrial threat, and it frequently dips into surrealism. There's even a hippie episode, but it's very interesting. There's some very, very surrealistic episodes of UFO, including one where UFO might be a TV show that's being produced by the company that's making UFO. It's not real at all. It's very interesting how they UFO pioneered bottle episodes. I mean, they turned their bottle episodes into some crazy stuff. But there's weird episodes that deal with time, and the aliens are always doing weird shit to all the people on the show. And there's this big element of conspiracy theory in the show because Shadow is a secret organization. There's a really interesting episode where they send a probe. They're able to follow a UFO back to the home world, but the camera on the probe is broken. So the pictures they take, they have no sense of scale, which I thought as a kid, I'm like, oh, I learned from this. I'm like, they have no way to judge if they're looking at a picture that's, a mile away or 1,000 miles away. So they're completely clueless as to what they're seeing. There's a lot of really interesting stuff that goes on in this show. And I can't recommend it highly enough. It's 26 episodes long, and as I said, it has a loose continuity to it, but it's really, really worth watching. Now, it's definitely a product of its time. First of all, it has one of the great theme songs in television history. It's amazing, and you can find episodes on YouTube, or you can get these expensive Blu-ray sets. The show looks amazing on Blu-ray. It looks incredible. I mean. And again, the model work, when you look at it now, you can tell you're looking at model work. But if you have the fetishistic attachment to models and Derek Medding's model photography, it's got some incredible miniature work. And as it looks, it does look like Thunderbirds. And later on, the team that was making UFO went on to make Space 1999, where they created the Eagle transporter, arguably one of the greatest science fiction spaceships ever to appear in media. But UFO is a show that it will, and again, the pacing. Sometimes you need to watch this. It is certainly not. A lot of episodes are not fast paced, especially with the almost pornographic model photography. It just delights in stopping the plot to show you interceptors launching from craters in the moon or mobiles being deployed, because that was from the super marionette shows that Gerry Anderson did. Gerry Anderson did the Gerry Anderson shows had this thing for kids to watch. I mean, it was great because you wanted those toys, but I still watch UFO, and I loved Gerry Anderson's fetishistic attachment to the ships and the hardware of this show. But what's really interesting is it's a very serious show. And even as a kid, I reveled in the fact that I wanted to grow up. Ed Straker, who again, Ed Bishop, is one of the great sci-fi characters. He's tormented, but he's still a great leader. He's everything I want from the lead of a sci-fi show. And of course, there are famously the women that run Moonbase are wearing purple wigs, which really is not explained. Like, why are they wearing purple wigs? I thought in my own mind, as I grew older, I came to understand that those probably were for radiation purposes. If you spend a lot of time at Moonbase, you need extra radiation shielding, so they wore purple wigs. It's one of the most indelible images in all of televised science fiction. The purple wigs on the Moonbase Alpha, Moonbase Alpha Space 1999. Moonbase becomes Moonbase Alpha if you buy into that continuity thing. But Lieutenant Gay Ellis, Gabrielle Drake, who plays Lieutenant Gay Ellis, Gay meaning that's her first name, Gay. Lieutenant Gay Ellis, who runs Moonbase. Again, as a young boy, you basically see her disrobe in the first episode, but it's very interesting because you see how her outfit can be changed and become, it goes from being her militaristic uniform to being casual for her off hours, all in one. So she's got this very utilitarian uniform that Shadow has issued her. And that was another great thing. The Century 21 Fashions, Rudy Gernreich, I can't pronounce his name, but a very famous fashion designer designed the fashions for Space 1999's first season. But I believe that Sylvia Anderson, who is Gerry Anderson's wife, created a lot of the fashions for UFO. And they're great. I mean, one of the great things is you watch it now and go, oh, this looks like Austin Powers. Austin Powers was absolutely influenced by UFO. It's very much swinging London. It's swinging London futurism. And the costumes are some of the greatest things you'll ever see. So, and again, the stories are dark, and they're fatalistic, and they're weird and surreal and sad. Some of them are sad, but it's a very serious show. And since I was a little kid and saw this show, I didn't get a lot of it, and when I was a kid, but I've grown up to love it. It's beautifully produced. It's so much fun to watch. It's really lush. It has the feel of, it's basically 2001 meets James Bond, is basically how I can describe it. 60s James Bond. And it is, it's an amazing series. And again, not for everybody, but it's something I've dearly loved. And people are always asking me, what show do you like? And it's a show that not a lot of people have seen because it hasn't been that available. It was cut together. A couple episodes were cut together into a movie called No, it wasn't Destiny. That was a Space 1999. Invasion UFO. It was called Invasion UFO. You can find that. It exists on Blu-ray and it exists on DVD. But don't get Invasion UFO. Watch the series. Go look up UFO. Watch Identify, the first episode. It's on YouTube. Check it out. And I can't recommend it highly enough. So let's see who's here on the Super Bowl Sunday. I'm going to go back up, and I understand the sound is low. I hope I'm projecting enough where you can hear me. So, there, I have a super chat question. I'm going to go answer that first. Dale M is here. Thank you for the super chat. He says, just wanted to show support for a channel I love. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dale. I'm on disability and only get paid once a month. I'm just trying to do what I can to show my appreciation. Dude, thank you so much. I mean, I appreciate that, and I know times are tough, and I can't thank you enough for supporting my channel, and I'm so glad to hear that you like what we're doing here. I thank you for being part of this. Everybody who comes here, as they know, they are part of this, the Post Geek Singularity community. So Dale, thank you for being a part of that community. I hope that you're on disability, so that I do bring some shining light into your world, because being on disability, I know, can suck. But I thank you for being here, and thank you. And by the way, thank you for participating and being part of the conversation, because that's what this is all about. If I was talking into a vacuum, I wouldn't do it. So, yes. So thank you for that support. I very much appreciate that. So I'm gonna go look at some questions, see what's up. Sebastian says, I'm watching Altered Carbon. Missed the series last year. Love it. I'm also watching Space 1999 and your recommendation. Now, Space 1999 is the series Gerry Anderson did after UFO, and it's really interesting because you go from the first season, which has the first season of Space 1999 is very much akin to UFO in terms of tone and feel. Then the second season, they turned it into this pulp sci-fi show. It got a little goofy, but you do get one of the great two-part episodes in all of sci-fi history, which is, of course, The Bringers of Wonder, episodes 1 and 2, which have the coolest, goofiest, awesome aliens that have ever been on TV. So if you haven't seen that Space 1999 two-parter, The Bringers of Wonder from season 2, check that out, because it's great. I don't know what's with my microphone. I think I got, you know what I think's happening? I think when I shift between my editing software and this, I got to figure that out. Ian Simpson says, I still have the toys when I was a kid back in the 60s. Well, one of the things about the Gerry Anderson shows, Dinky Toys from the UK made these great die-cast metal things of the Thunderbirds, of Ed Straker, the head of Shadow, has this great gull-wing car, one of the coolest cars ever. It's the first car I ever wanted. Ed Straker's car, amazing. Paul Foster has a great car. But the toys were one of the things that attracted me to these shows, but they never made a UFO toy. I mean, you can get them now. Product Enterprises made an awesome series of UFO toys. They're fantastic, but you can get anything now. I'm waiting for round 2, they re-released the MPC Eagle. I really want, there's one of the first AI characters in any sci-fi show was in UFO, Sid. The acronym SID, they called him Sid, but SID standing for Space Intruder Detector. And he was this great, like, white with red piping, orbiting AI that would detect UFOs coming into our system. And that's where I learned that our sun was not just called the Sun, it was called Sol. The name of our sun is Sol, S-O-L. And because the Space Intruder Detector would say they're approaching on Sol 8, the vectors, UFOs are coming in. Love that shit. It was so good when you're a kid. So good. So awesome. Miguel Nunez says, I heard that Star Trek Discovery is in major trouble, possible cancellation coming. It's on YouTube now. You know what? I think Star Trek Discovery was in major trouble when they fired showrunner Brian Fuller, but that's just me. Every episode I watch, I have to tell you, guys, it just makes me more and more angry to watch that show, because it's badly written. It's badly conceived and badly written by people who apparently didn't do the work. I feel like everyone who's writing Star Trek Discovery turned in their scripts the night before, and they didn't do the reading. That's what it's like. It's like being in junior high school when you were supposed to turn in a paper and you tore through the Cliff Notes and you really didn't understand what you read. That's Star Trek Discovery to me in a nutshell. Let's see. Brian Eng says, I was upset when he canceled the Ultraviolet episode because too many people complained about the volume. You know what? It wasn't just the volume. I started out bad. I'm going to redo that episode. I'm sorry about this volume. I don't know what I go between my editing software because I edit films right here too. So maybe that has something. I don't know what's going on. It's weird. Byron Broomhead says, hey, Rob, did you know Benedict Cumberbatch's mother is in UFO? Yes, I did, as you have now heard. Vess is here from Bosnia. Robert, have you ever seen Alfred Hitchcock Presents, a TV show from 1955? It was like, have I seen Alfred Hitchcock Presents? One of the great anthology shows of all time. I loved Alfred Hitchcock Presents. And yes, it was a great show. It's still a great show, and you should check it out. Let's see. the Andrew K channel asks, do you think there should be a Sliders TV show reboot or return? I like Sliders. It's pretty goofy, but they've done things like of its ilk, like Fringe had a little bit of a Sliders element to it with the alternate Earth. Sure, why not? You could do that. DLM says, I want you to keep going also, but yeah, it's that low, Rob. It's all Gilbert's fault. It's always the young troublemaker's fault. Yes, you're right, sir. Andrew K. Channel says, Star Trek Disco's Point of Light was one of the worst episodes of Disco I've seen so far. Dude, I got to go back, and I was a little tired when I watched it, but what I saw, I can't even, yeah, it was terrible. Let's see. Look, Brian, we have to. This mic is actually very, very good. It's just sometimes the software doesn't switch over when I think I have to reboot after I go back and forth between my editing software. Andrew K. Channel says, what do you think they should do with the future of the Alien franchise? I enjoyed Alien Covenant, although I didn't like the bit with the alien on the Covenant ship. Listen, here's the thing. I think what's wrong with the Alien franchise is somehow Ridley Scott got it into his mind we should do an Eric Von Däniken Chariots of the Gods thing. Chariots of the Gods was a book in the 70s. It was very popular where it talked about ancient astronauts. The idea that the alien was created by a psychotic robot from Earth just drives me insane. The great thing about the movie Alien is this creature was unknowable. That the fact is it came out of the universe and it will never be knowable. And the fact that you've now deconstructed, this is my problem with prequels. When you answer too many questions, you demystify what you love in the first place. And they haven't made the demystification of the xenomorph from the Alien franchise. It sucks. It's not cool. It's not good. I don't like it. But whatever. No one asked me. Sebastian says, the Andrew K. Channel, but I didn't like a single episode of Discovery, so personally I find it difficult to imagine how they'll fix it. They can't fix Discovery. Discovery is beyond fixing. Once you take away the vision of the original showrunner and then you try and hold on to as much of that vision as possible, but then shoehorn the visions of a bunch of other people, you wind up with the gobbledygook that is Discovery. Discovery is insulting on many, many levels, but I don't want to. I understand a lot of people have come to Star Trek via Discovery. I don't want to bash them, but it's unfortunate because Discovery is badly written and badly conceived, and it really bothers me. Bright says, my pops is working on a custom model kit of the UFO car. Dude, first of all, hit me up. Where do you get that model kit of the UFO car? What scale is it in? Is it 124 scale? Is it 148 scale? Is it 1/18th, 1/12th? What is it? I want to know. And is it Straker's car or is it Paul Foster's car? Because UFO had some badass automobiles, let me tell you. And by the way, tell your dad he's awesome. Tell him for me. Mike Bodden says, absolutely love the theme song to UFO. It's awesome. It is awesome. It's one of the great theme songs of all time. Writer B.L. Alley says, a lot of butt shots and the female crew changing clothes for no reason at all. No, there was a reason. It was the late 60s. If you watch the episode Identified, you do see a lot of cheesecake. Now, if we look at it through our eyes, I can see, okay, but don't forget, they had a lot of women in positions of power in UFO. They were crew members of the submarines. They ran Moonbase Alpha. Virginia Lake was a high-ranking officer in Shadow, and she worked for a high technology company before that. So it actually, for all of its cheesecake, and it dispenses with the cheesecake later on. The first episode has some egregious cheesecake in it. So I'm warning all you ladies out there, if you watch UFO, give it a chance. It is lascivious. But, even if we pretend we're not looking at you, we're looking at you. Just saying. Even now. Let's see. Bright says probably just YouTube happened on another stream. It might be YouTube. I don't know. It might be YouTube. It might be something. I'm not sure. That's what I'm trying to project this time. Let's see. Sebastian says, Beatmaster, I think you're right. Make it episodic in nature and just weave some plots through it like the last seasons of Enterprise. Maybe. I just think that they've got too many things that aren't good in Discovery. But that's something else we can discuss. Rewatched UFO recently. It never once goes for the easy option, says Alan Finlay. Yes, Alan, one of the great things about UFO, and I think, I was shaped as a child by science fiction shows, whether it was UFO, whether it was The Twilight Zone, whether it was Outer Limits, whether it was Star Trek, later Space 1999. The science fiction of the television science fiction of the late 50s, the 60s, and the early 70s was very intelligent. It was very intelligent. Later on, we got some, the Logan's Run television series, the Planet of the Apes television series, Fantastic Journey. Sci-fi was dumbed down in the 70s, and there was this idea, I think, that it's kind of like what happened to the Planet of the Apes franchise. The first Planet of the Apes and second, spoiler alert, beneath the Planet of the Apes ends with the end of the world. The Alpha Omega bomb, is set off and the world comes to an end. The Planet of the Apes franchise, if you watch it, is kind of what happened to science fiction in the 70s. You watch this very sort of erudite, very smart, very cynical movie, which was Planet of the Apes, and then beneath the Planet of the Apes, and then we got Escape from the Planet of the Apes, which is this wacky comedic romp where these smart apes wind up in Beverly Hills and go shopping. Then we wind up with Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, which was pretty, if you watch the R-rated version that was put out on Blu-ray, pretty brutal. And then Battle for the Planet of the Apes was basically made for kids because they had no more money left. But the dumbing down of televised science fiction, basically for children to watch, I didn't understand it, because as a kid, I fell in love with television science fiction because all the shows were smart. The Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, Star Trek. There was the Lost in Space, and we had the Irwin Allen shows like Time Tunnel and Land of the Giants, which weren't so smart, but still interesting shows. Wild Wild West would do the occasional science fiction episode that was pretty cool. Then we had Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, which was basically Star Trek underwater, but kind of dumb, where they had an armory on the Sea View. They had guns on a submarine. Probably not the best thing to have, but I understand. When aliens showed up in the Sea View, they needed guns. But Peter Noble says CGI is just as obvious as model work. I agree, Peter. A lot of people talk about, special effects are so much better now. I think they're just different. To me, I agree with you. I see computer graphics imagery as the same as model work. I love model work because when I saw model work in a show like the Gerry Anderson shows, I'd be like, I could make that model. Like as a kid, I could literally make what I was seeing on the screen. Not as good as Derek Meddings and his team, but you could do that. I think that was part of the appeal, and the fact that they made toys of these shows. That was pretty dope, that you could go get, if you had the dinky Interceptor, it had a really powerful system where you fired the missile and you could put a cap in the firing mechanism, and when the missile launched, the cap would go off like a cap gun. And it was a powerful toy, and it was great. Pre-live teaser says Space 1999's first season is excellent. The production values were ahead of its time. Second season suffered from random space warps, new Alphans. Yes, the first season of Space 1999 is again, it's dour, and it's deliberately, or some would say glacially paced. But let me tell you, what a great show it was. Actually, there's a lot of really compelling stuff. And that was, of course, Gerry Anderson's second live-action TV series. Brian McGovern says, I wish I could participate in this chat more. Too bad I have to work. Interested to see what comes up. I'm guessing Space 1999 will feature. Just started watching that on DVD. Yeah, I report back. Thanks for being here, by the way. I really appreciate you participating in the conversation. Dr. Gaster says, how is Skippy John Jones doing? Here is for those who don't know, last Sunday, this is day 8 of the Skippy John Jones crisis. She was attacked by another cat, and she had a horrible bite in her tail, and at first they thought her tail was actually broken and it was infected, and they thought they were going to have to amputate it. Luckily, we took her to the vet. She had to spend the night at the vet, and and cost us basically $2,000, which was not what we didn't have $2,000 to spend on that. I've got 2 teenage girls here, Elizabeth's daughters. We're like the Brady Bunch over here. And a $2,000 hit right after the holidays, not good for us. We set up a GoFundMe campaign, and I thank all of you who participated. So Skippy we have yet to take her to the vet. She finished her last course of antibiotics yesterday, and we are supposed to take her to the vet either tomorrow or Tuesday to look, but her tail looks much better. It looks like she's healing. It looks like the infection has gone down. She was on pain meds all week that we had to orally. Elizabeth was a trooper. Skippy did not like getting oral either pain meds or her antibiotics. So Skippy is better. She seems better. She can't go outside, obviously, for another week at least, but it's pouring down rain here, so that's probably for the best. We took off of her cone of shame, and she seems much better. So thank you for everybody who has contributed to the GoFundMe campaign, and thank you for asking. Very much appreciated. So Skippy John Jones, but she hasn't jumped up on my desk here when I'm working. I've been editing a commercial, and normally she comes and bothers me on my desk when she wants to be fed. So she hasn't done that in the last couple of days, or since she's been bitten. Hopefully she will be coming up today at some point, because I'll be editing all day between bouts of watching the Super Bowl. King of Scotland says, man, I'm nervous. My hometown team is in the Super Bowl every other year. It's funny. They asked a kindergarten class what the Super Bowl was, and the kid said it was the Patriots' last game of the season. Patriots are going down, brah. Come on. Rams. Let's see. Bunyan Snipe says, I want a Space 1999 MMO. That'd be pretty cool. Tom Bateman says, Rob, how much are my Los Angeles Rams going to win today in the Super Bowl? You know what? I think it's going to be a close game, but I have it. I'm going to say, I think it's going to be 32-28. That's what I'm saying. 32-28, maybe. I don't know. That means there's got to be a safety or something. It's going to be a crazy game. Rams are going to win. And by the way, Tom Bateman, who's here on this chat, is one of the prime movers to bring the Los Angeles Rams back to Los Angeles. I mean, he was trying for years, if not, I think, decades maybe, to bring him back here. Now it's what, their second year? Their second year here in LA with their young coach, and now they're at the Super Bowl? How crazy is that? Good on you, Tom. You and all the Rams supporters. Can't wait to see that new stadium. Looks dope. I'm expecting you to have a box there, like the Tom Bateman box that I get to go to, and Daddy's going to come in. Big Daddy here is going to go in and be treated stadium style and get all kinds of free food and booze. Can I expect that? Shouldn't call myself Big Daddy or anything like that. Seems idiotic. But anyway, I'm expecting you to provide that, Tom. Looking forward to next year. Aaron Johnson says, Rob, you mentioned the other day that Ultraviolet was shutting down. My theory is the studio's holding out, need to join soon to Movies Anywhere. I would love for Paramount, MGM, and Lionsgate to join. Here's the thing. I agree with you, and like I talked about this before, the studios don't want you to own their movies. I mean, over the last 40 years, really, home video started to come into its own in 79, even earlier with smaller companies that Andre Blaze started. But they don't want you to own their movies because their movies are theirs. And that's why everyone's starting their own streaming services and who knows? That's why I'm still a big proponent of owning movies, getting physical media. By the way, if I might make a recommendation, Arrow put out a fantastic box set of Waterworld that came out last week. It has 3 different versions of the movie on it, including the Ulysses cut, which I'd never seen, that I still haven't seen it because I haven't watched this, but the Ulysses cut, there's the theatrical version and then there's the TV version. The TV version restored more footage to the movie, and then the Ulysses cut was a UK version of the film that had even more stuff, but they have more violence and more bad language that they wouldn't show in America. So Arrow's version has all 3 versions of the film. It's a 4-disc set. It has a feature-length documentary on it made by Daniel Griffith of Ballyhoo Films. He does great documentaries for Shout, and he's been doing a lot of genre documentaries. His documentaries appear on the great 4K sets of John Carpenter's films, the first 3 of which are Escape from New York, The Fog, and They Live. And then next week, the 4K of Prince of Darkness comes out, which is great because I love Prince of Darkness. And Daniel's documentaries are on all 4 of those releases from Studio Canal. They also put out a beautiful 4-disc set of Michael Cimino's The Deer Hunter. So if you have a 4K player and a 4K TV, get on those releases. All 5 of them I highly recommend. Check them out. Bunyan Snipe says, my problem with Star Trek Discovery is my problem with most things, overcomplicating simple ideas and oversimplifying complex ideas. That, my friend, is a beautiful way to put it. I completely agree with you. Michael Dignam says, UFO turned into Space 1999. It did. I've always thought of them as being in continuity. Wow, I got another super chat question just came in. Just Plain Steve. Just Plain Steve. Thank you, my man. I really appreciate that. Just Plain Steve says, just a little cheddar to help with your little cat. Those vet bills can be killer. My dog swallowed half a corn cob to the tune of $3,200 once. I know the pain. Damn, that's $3,200. It's tough, and they're like, we don't have pet insurance, and thank you. I really appreciate that, sir. Thank you, Just Plain Steve. Not Steven. Like when you go out at night, are you Steven? Like that's your guys. There's, one day you're Jimmy Bond, the next you're James Bond. Just Plain Steve. When you go out, I'm Steven. I want to thank that. But thank you for that support. I really appreciate that. Skippy appreciates that. Michael Dignam sent me a super chat. He says UFO turned into space in 1999. It did. As a matter of fact, there is a great McFarlane Press. McFarlane is a small press that publishes a lot of books about the entertainment business, and they put out, I think it's called Exploring Space 1999, and they get into the history of how UFO was turned into space in 1999, and it kind of bummed me out because I think UFO after 26 seasons, and it's not like it doesn't end definitively. The last 2 episodes are very interesting though, but yeah, it doesn't end definitively. But they yeah, it's really interesting to watch. But you can see because it's the same production staff and obviously the same miniature effects people. I mean, to me, Space 1999 still has some of the best miniature effects ever done on TV ever. And the Eagle Transporter is still one of the Starship Enterprise and the Eagle Transporter are my 2 very favorite fictional spaceships of all time. I know people are like, what about the Millennium Falcon? Yeah, the Millennium Falcon, but the Millennium Falcon, it was weird looking. I mean, people don't remember. I mean, now it's such an iconic spaceship, but the Millennium Falcon is bizarre. It's like this weird off-center UFO, which was weird. But the Starship Enterprise and an Eagle Transporter are the 2 most badass spaceships that have ever been on TV. I mean, yeah, you can say Colonial Vipers and the Battlestar Galactica, which Battlestar Galactica itself is pretty friggin' badass. But in terms of when I was a kid, the Eagle Transporter and the Starship Enterprise, and that was because I got Starship Enterprise models and models of the Eagle Transporter, and I had the dinky Eagles, and they're just badass. And you can see it right here. Actually, it's right. My mother, for Christmas this year, I got to build it, got me the special edition round 2 Eagle Transporter model kit. It says NPC on it, but it's amazing. It's 22 inches. It's huge. She got me a special edition because it was on sale for like $100 off. So it was like $62 at this online retailer that I found. By the way, they don't pay me to say this, but if you guys want to build spaceship models, culttvman.com. Culttvman.com. It's one word, culttvman.com. It's run by a guy named Steve Iverson. Go there. It doesn't have paint, but it has all your model spaceship needs. If you want to make models from science fiction, fantasy, or horror, culttvman.com. Steve Iverson. And by the way, if you buy anything from him, send him an email. Even if you don't buy anything from him, just send him an email saying that Rob Burnett tells me that you're awesome because I buy stuff from him, and maybe he'll send me free paint masks for the Klingon Katinga class battle cruiser because they cost like $45. And who's got that money to spend? But go to Steve Iverson at culttvman.com and tell him that I was talking about how awesome he is. And if you buy spaceship models, you can get them discounted there. He's got news of upcoming kits, and he's also got old kits that you can find. So culttvman.com. This episode brought to you by culttvman.com. They should send me free shit, but I love them anyway. Ron Hall says, I love UFO. Didn't understand it when I was a child, but love the imagery. The Burnett work has inspired me to visit. I look forward to it soon. That's what I love. That's what this channel is all about. This channel is about me sharing what I love with you guys, so you can go find it. Now, you don't have to love it as much as I do, but give it a shot. Just and remember, here's the thing I try and tell everybody. Put yourself in the mindset of what it was like to watch that show in 1969 when it was new. Crazy. But think about that. And remember, it's I would say it's deliberately paced. So check that out. And remember, somebody sent me another super chat. Culture Inject. That's a cool name. Culture Inject says, have you heard about Joss Whedon's new sci-fi epic coming to HBO called The Nevers? Wow, you know what? I have not heard of this. I'm now going to go look it up. But first of all, what a great title. I love Joss Whedon as a creator. I'm a huge Buffy and Angel fan. Dollhouse was okay. I like Eliza Dushku in it, but that sounds great. Sounds awesome to me. I'm in. And if it's an HBO series, The Nevers, I love that. Is that about like people that never existed, that exist somehow? Let's see. Mills says pre-live teaser 5-minute fan film called Letters from Moonbase Alpha. It's available on YouTube. It's also on the Blu-ray set too. By the way, there is a great Space 1999 Blu-ray set from the UK that has both seasons. It's only been the first season is only available on Blu-ray in the States, but the double disc set is available in the UK. Let's see. What did somebody say? Donnie Pearson says, hello, everyone, and happy Super Bowl Sunday. Hello, Rob. I'm watching CBS's The Super Bowl today, followed by the big game itself. Go Rams. Go Rams. Let's hope the Rams win. King of Scotland says, Rob, did you hear Kevin Smith just slipped the original plan for Zack Snyder's Justice League trilogy story boarded by Jim Lee? I actually got very angry when I realized we'll never get to see it. I heard all about that. It is sad. I still don't understand why. It was studio panic that led to us getting that garbage Justice League movie, and that really bummed me out. Bunyan Snipes is really enjoying Hyperion Book 1. Love the whole tree ship idea. Oh, man, I'm so glad you're reading that. What Bunyan Snipe is referring to is a book series I keep talking about on the show, which is Dan Simmons. They're called the Hyperion Cantos because there's really 4 novels. But the first 2, Hyperion and Fall of Hyperion, which was actually written as one book that Mr. Simmons was forced to cut in half because the publisher told him to. I think it was Bantam. I think Bantam put them out, I think. But they were released as 2 hardcovers, which, by the way, I have both of mine signed. Thank you very much. They are great books, and they're basically like Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales in space, sort of. But the imagination on display in those books is astonishing. I can't recommend them highly enough. Dale M says, no, Rob, thank you. Your knowledge just blows me away, and it's always a pleasure to hear your stories. It's refreshing to see someone as enthusiastic as you are about what you love. Well, I thank you about that. I've had this boundless enthusiasm for all these great things since I was a kid. And what's great is I live in a world now where all the things I dreamed of having as a kid, whether they're action figures or model kits or movies at the same resolution they are in the theater, everything I love, everything we love as members of the post-geek singularity, video games, comic books, it's all awesome. You know, I can get my favorite comic books in these beautiful hardbound editions, like anything that DC puts out in their Absolute edition with the slipcase. I mean, I have Absolute Sandman, I have Absolute Watchmen, I have Absolute Transmetropolitan, I have Absolute Dark Knight Returns, I've got Absolute Kingdom Come, I've got Absolute Crisis on Infinite Earths. We have everything. It's great. We live in these amazing times, yet everybody's angry and mad at each other. I don't understand. What is it? What is it with this identity politics? Why is everybody so triggered? Maybe they like the stuff I love. I mean, look at these. I got 2 1/350 scale. I got my favorite Starship Enterprise, and I got the refit, my 2 favorite starships of all time, right here on my desk. I've got a Japanese Jack Skellington that's actually an armature that's the same size as the actual filming prop that they made Nightmare Before Christmas with. I have the ring ship from Star Trek The Motion Picture that just was in one photograph that became part of Star Trek lore. Eagle Moss made it into a toy. Come on. What's not to love? So good to live today. You know, the only problem about being alive today is one day I have to die. And that sucks because once I'm dead, I'm probably not going to care, but I'm going to be in the afterlife and I'll be still watching the YouTube channel from the Earth. And I'll be like, oh, great. Someone's doing a Starship model build video of like the Valley Forge from Silent Running that nobody made when I was alive. Although Jeff Bond bought a garage kit and he made it. It's in his garage. It's amazing. He also has the Cygnus. You can buy the Cygnus from the black hole on Shapeways. Somebody did a bunch of kits and you can buy the whole ship. How cool is that? Amazing. Michael Dignam says, great title music and UFO, lots of miniskirts. Absolutely, man. That's what I love about the 60s. Even in a super secret military organization, girls still wore miniskirts. What's not to love? Andrew K. Channel says, how much do you think that CBS's interference with disco is present versus writing staff producers not knowing what Star Trek is? You know, I don't see a lot of network notes on that show. I think they should be getting more because it's pretty nonsensical. I don't know. I think they don't get to give notes. I have no idea. Wow, another super chat came in. That's amazing. I will go and look at that, what that is. Let's see. Dan Schmidt. Dan, thanks for the support, by the way, on the channel. Any thoughts on the Game of Thrones new series coming to HBO? Also, thoughts on the showrunners for Game of Thrones working on the new Star Wars? That, my friend, is a great question. First of all, I love Game of Thrones because, of course, they had George R.R. Martin's. I'm sorry. I'm going to take. I'm drink. I have a new beer that I found. It's called Raging Bitch beer. And what's great about this is I think that Ralph Steadman, who illustrated like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, drew this, or maybe it's done in Ralph Steadman style. I only bought this beer at a local store because it had a Ralph Steadman label, but it's actually pretty good. So anyway, I love Game of Thrones, and one of the great things about Game of Thrones is because it's literary based, we really got a rich story. I mean, it's not about your technology, it's about the people. And the great thing about Game of Thrones is, first of all, how people in Westeros suck for the most part. They suck. And although the Lannisters always pay their debt, so I guess that's something. I love Game of Thrones. I can't wait for Game of Thrones. I know that people said, oh, season 7 things went too fast. You know, they were stuck on that ice floe with the army of the dead around them, and apparently Daenerys was able to fly to them. And first of all, she got the Raven that flew 500 miles, and then she flew another 1,000 miles, which traversed in like a couple hours. I get it, but that doesn't usually bother me. If it was in a Star Trek show, it'd probably bother me. But Game of Thrones is it could very well be the greatest TV show of all time. We'll know if they stick the landing. But I cannot wait, sir. Dan, I cannot wait to see season 8. And I'm very excited. And I can't wait for Weiss and Benioff to create their own Star Wars show. Because that's what Star Wars needs. It needs that kind of thought put behind it. And how fantastic. I mean, that is, I again, cannot wait for that new season. I think it's going to be incredible. So, yeah, very excited about that. Let's see. Bartamac from Ireland is here. I put the Enterprise refit, even a bird of prey above the Falcon, but I'm a Trekkie. You know, I'm with you, dude. But I think the Klingon D7 is better than a bird of prey. And by the way, no one's ever mentioned like a D7 except Discovery, and they don't even know what it is. They called the D7 something last season, and then they show us a D7 this season. I'm supposed to be excited about that. I'm just like, no, you people are idiots. You turn a page in the Star Trek Encyclopedia, you could figure that shit out. But oh no. Michael Dignam says Captain Scarlet was dark for a children's program. Totally was. There's even an episode of, if you guys want to see something crazy, go watch an episode of the Thunderbirds called The Martian Invasion. First of all, it's great. Watch, but you've got puppets smoking. The super marionettes they're smoking, which is awesome in a kid show when you see smoking puppets that aren't on fire. They're literally smoking cigarettes. Watch the Martian Invasion episode of the Thunderbirds. It's delightful. If you guys like movies, you'll love it. Clayton George says, I like the Enterprise and love the Eagle Transporter like a father loves a child. But if I had to choose one ship, I'll stick by Captain Harlock's pirate starship, the Arcadia. Raise the black flag. You know what's really funny about that? Here, hang on. Check this. You bring up Captain Harlock, although I knocked his check this out. Look at this. I have Captain Harlock, although I knocked his thing off. I have Captain Harlock sitting on the throne of Arcadia on my desk. That's how much I love Captain Harlock in the Arcadia. He's always with me, Captain Harlock, just so you know. So I'm with you. And the Arcadia is in the garage. It's sitting next to the space battleship Yamato. I have the Arcadia. I have the Soul of Chigokin Arcadia. It's awesome. Let's see. People are like, what? Captain Harlock and the what? Anyway, Captain Harlock. It's a Japanese animated series created by Matsumoto Leiji, or as we say, Leiji Matsumoto. And it's part of the Galaxy Express 999 universe. And there's Captain Harlock, and there's Queen Emeraldis, and it's awesome, and it's Japanese, and it's great. And the spaceships in Captain Harlock and Queen Emeraldis are awesome. Basically, you've got a spacefaring pirate ship and then a spacefaring pirate blimp. It's great stuff. Let's see what do we got here. Who's next? Farky50 says, hey, Rob, I don't get to see you live often anymore. Any thoughts on making any type of schedule, especially for use on the East Coast? Maybe for one night to start. You know what? Yes. My good friend Mike Bodden has talked to me about making a more formal schedule, both for the show and for our format. I'm going to be getting some equipment to make this show a little bit more, these chats a little bit more. They'll have a lot more production value. I'll be able to intercut clips, and I'll be able to intercut stuff that I talk about. It will require a lot more production up front, but it's going to be better. And yes, you know, I throw it out to you guys. If I did a night show, because there's a lot of people from around the world, what would you guys like to see me do this? You know, I do the John Campy show in the morning. I don't know what you guys want me to do. When would be the time you would want me to do this? Please hit me back and tell me what you want me to do. Bill Barkley says, by the way, Rob, did you like seeing the Vulcan warp shuttle again? I wonder if it'll get turned into a medical device again like it did in the Voyage home. Yeah, I don't know, man. You know, for those the medical device from it's actually the shuttle bay and the impulse deck on the D7 was used as a medical scanning device in Star Trek. So, yeah. Last King of Scotland says, I keep saying the last King of Scotland when you just are saying the King of Scotland. I don't mean to disparage you, because I don't want you to be the last King of Scotland. The King of Scotland says, Star Wars needs George Lucas back. Disney Star Wars is like Canada. Yeah, it looks like the USA, but they sell milk in plastic bags and use vinegar and mayo on their French fries. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I think George Lucas is coming back. I mean, I think he's going to have a little bit more. They're going to go back to him and ask his, at least consult. Nerfherd 21 says, Captain Scarlet is my favorite Gerry Anderson show. It's pretty cool. Captain Scarlet has a lot in common with UFO. The aliens in Captain Scarlet are the Mr. Ons, which is awesome. They've got, first of all, Captain Scarlet has white base, or a cloud base. Cloud base, white base is Gundam, Mobile Suit Gundam. Cloud base, they have a shield helicarrier. Captain Scarlet has a flying hela ship. I think it's called Cloud Base, where they launch the Angel Interceptors from. And to me, the Angel Interceptors, again, hot chicks, hot puppet chicks. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I don't want to be, because I'll get Me Too. But the pilots of the Angel Interceptors and Captain Scarlet are beautiful women puppets. I mean, if you can be attracted to a wooden puppet, the women that fly the Interceptors off Cloud Base are like these hot platinum blonde girls. That's why they're called Angel Interceptors. But that's just a thing. If you prefer, badass female puppets that fly awesome interceptor jets, Captain Scarlet's the show for you. Pre-Live Teaser says, it's difficult choice between a Colonial Viper and an Eel Transporter. You know, my problem with the Colonial Viper is it looks just too much like a jet fighter. If you really want to see a cool ship, if you're going to go, I'm going to go to the hatchet fighters, the Buck Rogers in the 25th century hatchet fighters. Those might be my favorite fighter of any fighter on a show. Those Buck Rogers ships are awesome. They're awesome ships. Let's see. Fred Hensley says the coolest crossover character I ever saw was Bond meets Kirk dude Gary 7 from TOS. Just wow, including a very young Terry Garr. What Fred Hensley is talking about is, it's actually, people don't know this, but in Star Trek history, there's the last episode of the second season of the show. It's called Assignment Earth. And it's actually a backdoor pilot for another television series about Robert Lansing and Terry Garr and Isis the cat. We're going to be, he's a superhuman he was taken from Earth and sent back to Earth to help Earth get through troubled times. And John Byrne did a great book series about Gary 7, and also Greg Cox, his Khan trilogy, his Eugenics War trilogy, has a lot of Gary 7 in it, and it's great. I highly recommend them both. Nerfherd 21 says, greetings from Shrewsbury, England. Have you seen the Justin Lee Collins Bring Back Star Trek? I have not. But I'll look at that. Pose of the Clown. I'll get Me Too. Yeah, somebody's going to be like, that Rob Burnett was talking about hot blonde puppets. He's a misogynist. I'm not a misogynist, by the way, and I'll admit I like hot blonde super marionettes. Who wouldn't? Especially that fly cool jets that Derek Meddings built off Cloud Base in Captain Scarlet. What's wrong with that? Clayton George says the Angel pilots are smoking hot, Rob, and they kick Mr. on ass in both the puppet and the CGI version. Cloud base is where I want to go if I die. I love helicopter. I love helicarrier riffs. Clayton George, I am with you. And I'm glad that there's another person on this chat that thinks the Angels are smoking hot. They are. And so is Cloud Base. Cloud Base is way cool. Vesna says, what's wrong with a hot chick? Who doesn't want to be hot? When you're 40, you rarely get that kind of compliment. Well, I don't think that's true. I think 40-year-old women are hot. I think 50 and 60 and 70-year-old women can be hot. Jane Fonda's in her 80s and she's still hot. So, but it's wrong for me to say that in this climate because I don't want to ever think that I'm only considering women as hot because I don't. That's just something else. It's just something to notice. Kind of like when it's raining outside, you're like, it's raining. It's kind of the same thing. It's a fact. But in this day and age, and again, I don't want somebody to think that, I'm anthropomorphizing super marionettes a little bit too much. But if you watch Captain Scarlet versus the Mysterons, you know what I'm saying. Writer BL Alley says, Helen Mirren will always be hot. I couldn't agree more. Helen Mirren, who played famously Morgana in John Borman's 1981 Excalibur, and then she was actually in Caligula, if you know what I'm saying. Let's see. Bartomax says Gary 7 actually used a device that worked in a similar way and looked like Doctor Who's screwdriver before Doctor Who. Totally. Yes, people have talked a lot about how Gary 7 could very well be a Time Lord. I'm expecting IDW to do a crossover comic any minute that the Tiptons will write calling Gary 7 a Time Lord. Somebody's probably already done it. Let's see. Bill Barkley says, will Arrow Video release Uncut Event Horizon? This is a very good question. So as many people know, or many people don't know, Paul Anderson's film Event Horizon, which I actually very much enjoy, they have scenes that are basically shot in hell. There are flashbacks in hell, and they actually shot some really extreme stuff with porn stars, and I mean, it was some hardcore. I don't know exactly how hardcore. I was told it was pretty hardcore stuff, hardcore sex and hardcore violence, and very, very little of it is in the film. And I've been told that they have not been able to find the unused footage of that movie. So I don't know if there ever will be an uncut version of Event Horizon, but I actually like Event Horizon very much. I'm a big fan of the design of the Event Horizon herself, and I like that movie a lot. To me, it falls into it is an Alien ripoff, kind of. It's Alien meets Hellraiser, I guess. But I like it. I'd love to see an uncut version of it. Clayton George says Captain Scarlet had a lot of unused potential, and even the CGI version didn't go far enough. Scarlet died, served the Mysterons as an alien double, and then came back to humanity. Has he dealt with it? I don't know, man. Did they ever have the episode Family from Captain Scarlet? I don't remember. Dale M says, I think 8 or 9 Eastern Standard Time would be great. That is just me, though, because that's the problem. It's not great on the West Coast because of 3 hours. You know what, though? I could do that. People have asked me to do like multiple chats a day as long as I can fix my mic problem. Yes, I should probably do that because it would be fun. I don't have to come on for an hour. Okay, anyway, guys, it's Super Bowl Sunday. I have editorial work that I must complete. I want to thank you all for being here. Thanks for participating in the chat. Thanks to everybody who supports the channel. If you still want to help Skippy John Jones, there is a GoFundMe campaign you can find on my website at theburnettwork.net. One word, theburnettwork.net. I'm putting new stuff up there all the time. I want to thank also to all my Patreon subscribers. I've been dropping some video, some exclusive video on the Patreon page, and I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to start having an exclusive Patreon chat, and I'm going to do my Patreon chats are going to be viewers' discretion. I want people to send in topics if you're a Patreon subscriber, you can send me in a topic to be considered and I'll do a live chat just for Patreon subscribers about whatever topic my Patreon subscribers send in. I'm going to probably start doing that next week. So thank you for that. I'm still doing my giveaways. I just didn't have a chance to get something to give away yet. A lot of the first round of giveaways go out for people that, if you're a Patreon subscriber, you sign up for the newsletter on the website, or you give me a super chat, everybody is entered into a drawing for something like vintage comic books or maybe action figures. I don't know. I'm not giving away my captains. I'm not giving away Captain Harlock, so don't ask. But anyway, Yeah, so that's all great. I want to thank all of you members of the Post Geek Singularity community. Oh, Brandon Valenzuela says, send a super chat, getting it right under the wire. Thank you, Brandon. Event Horizon sequel, Miller's Journey to Hell. Dude, I'm in. I'd love to see. I can't believe they haven't even done like some direct-to-video sequel for Event Horizon. I don't know. I mean, it's a movie that people like. I know I like it. So anyway, this brings me to the end of the chat. As Bunyan Snipes says, we need the Patriots in the White House right now, but sod it, go Rams. Yes, I believe that. So thank you all for being here. Crixus Maximus, dude, I'm just wrapping up, but thanks for being here. And thank you all for being here on this Super Bowl Sunday. And remember, everybody you meet has a story. Oh, man, Fred Hensley, you're keeping me here. Go Patriots. Dude, he sends in a super chat. Fred, first of all, I appreciate the support, but go Patriots. Haven't they won enough? Wouldn't it be great if the Rams win today? Wouldn't that be awesome? Not just for Los Angeles, not just for the Rams, not for the supporters, but, you know, anytime somebody beats the Patriots, it's a good day. The Patriots are like, I know they're the greatest. I understand that Tom Brady's the greatest who ever lived. He probably is the greatest quarterback that will ever live. He's the Michael Jordan of quarterbacks. I get that. But it's like boring to see the Patriots win. However, usually like the last time they won the Super Bowl, you know, it was pretty it was pretty amazing to watch. I just want to see a great game. That's what's most important. Give me a great Super Bowl and give me a Rams victory today, because that would be a great Cinderella story for the Rams. It'd be great for Los Angeles. It'd be great for their supporters. It'd be great for all the people like Tom Bateman, who was there and helped them bring back the Rams to the city, because they were always the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, come on. Anyway, George Clayton says, go Misterons. I was a Misteron supporter. Oh, Mike Bodden's here. Justice for Tom Brady. Like, he needs justice. The guy's married to a supermodel. He has millions and millions and millions of dollars. He has the infinity war of Super Bowl rings now. I mean, come on. Tom Brady doesn't need any of our help. Hashtag justice for Tom Brady. Come on. Bunyan Snipe says, this is the voice of the LA Rams. I love the Misteron voice. It's great. Anyway, I'm gonna get off this chat right now, because if I'm on this chat, it means I'm not working for Mike Bodden, and I need to be working for Mike Bodden to finish up this project I'm doing for him. Anyway, thanks for being here. And did I say it? Did I finish saying, remember, everybody you meet, every person you meet has a story to tell that you haven't heard. All you have to do is listen. Thanks for being here. It's always fun to spend time with you lovely people, and we will talk tomorrow.